I'm sitting here eating my morning cup of noodles here, my fancy ones, and my cup of grape juice cranberry spring water mix. And okay, let me put it this way. You ever like be such a boxing degenerate, like boxing is in your soul, that sometimes you be in a bed thinking about it? This is about 11 o'clock or so. I'm watching some flat earth documentaries on YouTube. They're kind of turning me. You know, I'm starting to be like, what the fuck, damn, you know. But anyway, moving on. So I'm like, bro, let me go back and check my Twitter to see what people are saying about this fucking fight. So what was it, about 5 p.m. or so Eastern Standard Time yesterday, Wednesday, November the 17th, 2021. I was exhausted. I was up real early in the morning, covering Tim Tszyu, number 3 IBF 154-pound contender, WBO 154-pound contender, basically the winner for Charlo Castaño 2 if it happens. And I was exhausted, basically, you know, because the main event starts at about 7 a.m. or so. So I went to bed at 1 a.m. the night before. Just giving you some context. Everybody relax. It's like 1 a.m. I went to bed. Then I had to be up at fucking 4 o'clock in the morning because Big J was, anyway, you know, like a 3-hour sleep. But something told me before I go to bed to make sure I check again, because I got an email. Let me tell you when the email came through. 4:35. 4:35. I'm not bullshitting you. I'm not bullshitting you. I'm gonna show you. This is all boxing shit. About 4:35 a.m. no p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I got this shit, and I was like, okay, all right. Luis Ortiz versus Charles Martin is happening on January the 1st. All right, Coppinger already put it out there, but then I saw this shit right here. I'm like, what the fuck, bro? Bro, they out of control. I don't care. Nah, don't try to give me no, oh, well, you know, it's cheaper than the other pay-per-views. You know, it's only $39.99. Mind you, Mayweather versus Logan Paul was $49.99. They knew they couldn't make this shit $50. But listen to this card. Listen to this card. Luis Ortiz versus Charles Martin on pay-per-view. That's the main event. You know why? Because Luis Ortiz is guaranteed, promised a lot of money, however you want to put it. Charles Martin is guaranteed, promised a lot of money. That's why you're not seeing these guys fighting actively, because I'm going to go ahead and say it. The PBC model is broken. That's why we're seeing all these pay-per-views. These fighters weren't supposed to be on pay-per-view. You know, remember free boxing for all? Remember that when, you know, the big fights were supposed to be on like free? Now, all these guys have been guaranteed all this money for so many years, they don't want to take no pay cuts. And that's why you're getting a New Year's Day pay-per-view with Luis Ortiz versus Charles Martin, Frank Sanchez versus Carlos Negron, Jonnie Rice versus Michael Coffie 2, and Gerald Washington versus Ali Eren Demirezen. I mean, I've seen all of these guys fight before. But the thing is, this is no more than the PBC on Fox card. This shit should, you know, Showtime. But if this is not a big red flag for you, I don't know what to tell you, bro. Like, I'm looking at it and I'm like, okay, yeah, it's $40, but it's like, pay-per-view, bro, what is going on with you dudes? And this is how PBC is starting 2022, the very first day. Let's take a jump cut. My noodles are getting cold. Take your time out, like the video, subscribe. We're going to break this shit down. I'm TstreeT Controversy with FightView360.com. How many pay-per-view buys you think this shit is going to do? Listen, I'm a boxing degenerate, and I've purchased some shit throughout my day. I've purchased some real low-down pay-per-views. I'm going to buy this one too. It's my job. I do it for you, the people. But it's like, bro, what the fuck is going on over at Haven Sports right now? All right, so we're back. So here's what I've been doing. I've been trying to find, I'm almost finished my cup of noodles here. I've been trying to find what Luis Ortiz made for his last fight against Alexander Flores. That was a bubble fight, a PBC bubble fight, closed studio. This was in November of 2020. Now, for his fight with Wilder, according to Dan Rafier, let me pull up the article right here. Here's what he made. Now I'm going somewhere with this. Wilder's guarantee was 20 million. Luis Ortiz guarantee was 7 million. Now remember, look at this right here also. He turned down $500,000 for the Wilder fight. Okay, all right, I got it. He made so much more. But I think the reason why this has to be on pay-per-view, because Luis Ortiz's last opponent, Alexander Flores, many felt he took a flop, including myself. So his purse, only $80,000 in boxing. You know, it's not a lot of money in boxing standards for the type of fight he was in. He made $80,000 when he fought Luis Ortiz. That money was frozen, you know, while the situation was under investigation if he flopped or not. So what I'm saying is a guy like Luis Ortiz eats up the entire budget that that Fox is giving PBC to put on these boxing shows. Charles Martin, since he was a former champion, IBF, fought Anthony Joshua in a very high profile fight, also eats up a lot of money. So PBC is in a situation that when you have two guys like this fighting, you know, each other, they're going to eat up a lot of money, and that's why it's going to be on pay-per-view. You see what I'm saying? But here's the undercard. You know, listen, their money problems are not the fans' money problems. And, you know, we hear all the time, Al Heyman takes care of his fighters. Yes, he does. But fans are the one paying his fighters. So, for example, here's some crazy numbers. And we don't know exactly how much PBC gets back or gets from Fox to put on a show. And also, I did a little bit of research as well. I don't know how important it is, but it seems as though PBC has an obligation to a certain amount of pay-per-views that they have to fill. And, you know, and I'm guessing within the fiscal year, so that's why this fight is happening on pay-per-view on October the 1st, because they had pay-per-views that they were supposed to put on during a certain time. I'm guessing maybe the Spence versus Ugas pay-per-view that was supposed to happen February 2022. And maybe that's when PBC on Fox's contract, you know, restarts or renews, because they are going to be with PBC on Fox for a 4th year. There's just so many questions. And remember, all this is just speculation, you know, based off of some fact. And, you know, I am researching, but we'll never know the real, like, nitty gritty. The point I'm trying to make is, they put it on pay-per-view. They really put this shit on pay-per-view. They really put it on pay-per-view. Luis Ortiz, Charles Martin, Frank Sanchez, Carlos Negron, Jonnie Rice versus Coffie, Gerald Washington versus Demirezen, and Vic Hurst versus Kiladze, all PBC on Fox fighters, all of them, every single last one of them. Every single last one of these fighters have been on PBC fights, PBC on Fox before. The PBC explosion and PBC on FS1. So this is a big red super red flag. But one thing for sure is, in my personal opinion, I do feel that 2022, because of all these money issues, fighters are going to be forced to take pay cuts. This is why you're seeing a whole lot of fighters taking layoffs, because they can't take bullshit fights anymore. You know, that they got to fight each other, or we get situations like this. So, for example, this pay-per-view does 50,000 pay-per-view buys. From the top of my head, what's that? About 1.9 million, you know, dollars or so. How much does go back? How much of that goes back to Fox? How much of that goes to production? Because it's hard to see this fight doing fucking 30,000 pay-per-view buys. Let's be real here. It's New Year's Day. Luis Ortiz is not that known. Yeah, he fought Wilder on pay-per-view, but his name don't ring no bells. Charles Martin don't really have no, like, type of social media presence or no. Oh, I mean, of course I'm going to buy it. I'm going to be here because I'm going to be like, but then again, I might not. It's New Year's Day. So I might be drunk. I don't drink on New Year's, but I might go get drunk on New Year's Day. Who knows? You know, New Year, I might say, you know what? I'm going on my lady tonight. You know, I'll cover that shit, you know, whenever I fucking feel like it. One more jump cut. Take a time out, like the video, subscribe. I want to make sure I have everything, because I'm in shock, ladies and gentlemen. I'm in shock. They did this. Now, here is a funny situation. Andy Ruiz and Chris Arreola fought on pay-per-view. Andy Ruiz commands a hell of a lot of money, for both of the Anthony Joshua fights. You see what I'm saying? And PBC, from my understanding, promises a lot of these guys like, nah, don't do this. We're going to take care of you. So the Andy Ruiz versus Chris Arreola, I'm like, all right, I see why they put that on pay-per-view. I don't agree with it, but I see why they put that on pay-per-view, especially since Chris Arreola in the past went on the record about like what he may or may not have owed Al Heyman. So I can see like, all right, this is him cashing him out. Chris Arreola out. One of the longtime Al Heyman fighters, like he cashed out Andre Berto by giving him the Mayweather fight and the Sean Porter fight. I get it. So Chris Arreola, Andy Ruiz, Chris Arreola being reported by Coppinger right here, did 125,000 pay-per-view buys at $50. Me personally, I only trust numbers from two different sources. Kevin Iole from Yahoo and Boxing Scene CBS owned Jake Donovan or Keith Idec. That is it. Those are and when you hear about pay-per-view buys anywhere on the internet, anyone who's doing videos who don't cite their sources, that is where they are getting the numbers from. And then Coppinger, number 3, but he's got, something in media that you don't want to really have hanging over your head. Like with the fans, they look at him as being like a shill for whatever promoter. Like, Eddie Hearn feeds you this news. PBC fed you that, So, the other guys, not too much. Even if Boxing Scene is owned by CBS, they're still credible. So, but with Luis Ortiz versus Charles Martin, oh, and by the way, the number that has been floating around for what a lot of people feel happened and a lot of fans believe was a number by 36,000 pay-per-view buys or so. I can believe that number because hell, I purchased the pay-per-view but didn't even watch it until the next day. I don't remember. Or a week later or some shit like that. Even though I like both fighters, I just was like, what, if I have time to take off, I'm going to take off on this fight. I don't get too many Saturday nights off, or weekends off. But in this right here, there's no type of storyline build up. That's one thing that PBC on Fox doesn't do where Showtime does better is the storyline of these fights. So for example, is this fight going to lead to a Luis Ortiz versus a Frank Sanchez? No. What it's likely going to lead to is hopefully Luis Ortiz versus Andy Ruiz. We can get that on pay-per-view. But is this like a barometer type of thing? Really, I don't even think this is the barometer. I think this is an obligation. I don't think that PBC put this on. Let's test this. Let's give them a fun fight and see what they, this is like shit. We got to pay Luis Ortiz. How we going to do it? And then we owe Charles Martin his money. And Charles Martin ain't fight since what? 28, 2-1. And remember, he gave up an IBF shot. He could have been IBF mandatory by now. For the heavyweight title. No bullshit. Okay, he fought Gerald Washington also in the bubble. Before that, Daniel Martz. Gregory Corbin, the Kwiatkowski fight was fun. Don't make no sense to me, man. But the good thing for PBC is one of these guys lose. Luis Ortiz, Charles Martin, one of them take a pay cut, You see what I'm saying? But for them to be putting on Frank Sanchez versus Carl, bro, and I've been seeing fans, I've been reading all over social media, this card is getting slaughtered. Heavyweight, like what is it, the heavyweight showdown? Heavyweight extravaganza kicks off 2022 with New Year's Day showdowns headlined by top heavyweight Luis Ortiz battling former world champion Charles Martin in an IBF title eliminator, but not a final eliminator. January 1st in the Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino in Hollywood, Florida. Rising star Frank Sanchez dueling Puerto Rican Olympian Carlos Negron in the co-main event. Stacked 5-fight lineup also includes Jonnie Rice versus Michael Coffie, Gerald Washington versus Ali Eren. We're going to call him Ali Eren. And Viktor Faust versus Iago Kiladze. $39.90. Oh, live Fox Sports PBC pay-per-view at a special price of $39.99. And tickets go on sale Monday, November the 22nd at 10 a.m. Y'all going? Y'all going? Shout out to PBC though, man. You know, they some funny ass motherfuckers, man. Like I wonder like how like the team felt, you know, like sponsor communication and shit. Like when like they got like an email or phone call, like, yeah, Luz Ortiz versus Frank Martin. I mean Charles Martin going on. So just start putting together all the little banners and the posters and shit. Get the media calls ready. And they're like, all right, cool. All right, what network is gonna be on Showtime or Fox? Now we're putting that shit on pay-per-view. Look, out of control.